A podcast that unfairly judges videos by nonsensical rules, inaccuracy in what they say inside reviews, a lack of transparency to former co-hosts. Yet it is still my favorite podcast and the only one I listen to. The YTFA podcast. I've talked about it a few times and said I liked them and the podcast. So why am I talking about it this way? Well, first of all,
just click on the link and we will have a countdown, and then we will look at the 5 minutes of this 9-minute video.
Hey, I found Flimsy.
There we are.
In the sea of people who really want to
Get their names out there.
which at first sounds quite cool, yet what does it mean? Any video up to 5 minutes can be fully judged, yet that is the full length. Yet with an edited podcast, where I do doubt much editing is needed, not to say that the hosts work on other things, which they do, which would project the point and would make me look like an asshole, you can still cut out, leave in, or censor as you wish. May that go from a singular swear like fuck to right-wing Nazi symbolism, which I do not even intend to show here. Yet if I send in one of my videos, which are all over said 5 minutes, I can only be judged by those first 5 minutes. Even if more of the good effects come in later, you judge others fully, yet others not. Tell me, how is that fair in any regard? A spot on the show? A feature? That's not what people want. They want feedback, not a feature. People get no views through your podcast. You pick what videos you review. So either pick 5-minute videos only, which would not be fair for people like me, or drop the pseudo-helpfulness.
Yeah, but I just feel like the voiceover is the main issue. You just need to get more confident in front of the mic.
Why say things if they aren't true? You did not say, for lack of a better word. Yes, wording is very important when critiquing. Guess why I am literally reading from the script right now. And I'm doing what you guys did at the start, having it quieter. I prefer that. I talk calmly about any and everything. That video was too silent because I was too far away from the microphone. Those are setup issues, not issues in confidence. And that is something I can disprove easily, and I was plain wrong. Not correcting it in the podcast itself is not a good thing. One of you can edit a part in as an example, like Pyro lacked a better word for this at the moment. It is an issue with the equipment or the setup. I think that is quite easy. And now I could ask about what else was wrong and I'm unable to disprove. Maybe it was the only slip up. I can neither deny or confirm this, so I'll leave it at that. If you are educational, either correct it somewhere, which they didn't, not even in the description or a comment under the podcast, not like anyone reads those two things anyways, but it would still have been better than just saying it in a comment under my video. Also, this is Editing Kuro real quick here to address the comment that I'm showing here right now, which you posted. Specifically the part about the confidence part in my video where I reacted to them, right? He understood it, but then again saying, hey, this isn't correct, I'm sorry, is still not good enough. You should say, hey, I will put it into the description of the podcast. You can still edit that in. You can still put a comment under the podcast so that when people go to write a comment, they can see it. You can pin it. That you can do. You can do that easily and it would have been fine and I would not be saying this right now. I do something like that if I realize I make a mistake. I mean, putting it in the description or in a comment is still not good. No one will read that, highly likely. But say it in the next podcast episode, which is still going to come out hopefully someday. Or at least address it with the current episode. Sorry to interrupt. Abandoning of the YTFA. Rules are not enforced due to a clear lack of moderation. I also run an amino myself, and the curators are right under the leaders. My amino is so small to the point where I do not need curators, yet it is still a good thing to have. Meanwhile, the YouTube family amino, which is where the podcast originated from, is lacking curators and any sign of moderation. They abandoned the platform for Discord while a lot of people still post in the amino, while clearly breaking the guidelines. They do not mention the amino anywhere, and if you're only on the amino, you cannot get your videos reviewed anymore. which was a big point of why it got so popular in the first place and why I enjoyed it so much. I am aware that this point is weak, yet I do recommend Pyro to get a team of curators and leaders in place. Any platform with thousands of users, which is what an amino basically is, needs moderation even if it gets abandoned by the person that created it in the first place. Proving what didn't happen is always going to be difficult, yet they never mentioned what happened to Tiny Koala, the creator, and other co-hosts from the first few episodes of the podcast. I am really surprised no one wondered why. It is a rather weak point again, yet they seem to put transparency big, yet do not mention people leave, which is always an important thing to talk about. Tiny Koala deleted her channel, the creator retired or is currently on a very long break. Other co-hosts were a curator from Amino, which the name of the podcast came from, as I just said, and I did not try to get in contact with the co-hosts because it seems they do not wish to be in public anymore. I wish to uphold their privacy, and digging around for information on them online and trying to get a statement from them years later is not a nice thing to do, especially with barely any activity of them online, if any. So editing crew here to end the video nicely. After all of that, I do have to say the podcast still is a very good podcast. I can't say that it definitely is a bad thing. All I can say is that it is not the best either. If I want a podcast that critiques my shit, I want it to be factually accurate and do things right. And if they make a mistake, an honest mistake, to at least mention it somewhere. And as you saw, they did not do that. It is still a good podcast and I recommend it definitely, but it has its issues like everything. But if you put yourself into a point where you critique others, you have to count with feedback and with the fact that you also will get some shit back, which is why I'm doing this. Because no one else is speaking up about certain things they do, like the 5-minute rule. But it is the biggest point on why I really dislike what they're doing. And again, videos like this always are a bit less editing hefty because I don't talk about topics that like Exploding Kitten where I can edit a lot. Here I can just talk about things casually. That's definitely something to also keep in mind. Editing. You can edit parts out, you can edit parts in, you can censor things. You can utterly outright say, I will not show this creator. So either be consistent with your rules or not do them at all. If you want to critique videos like this, fine, but choose videos under 5 minutes. After all, you wish to be fair to the creators that you review and not cut out things that may be important to talk about.